Hi, hello, and welcome back. You've suffered through one video with me, and now you're going to do a second one. So this is a response to discussion board 3, your reading response, where I asked you to read a whole heck of a lot of this book. Um, it reads very quickly, which is great. There are a lot of examples in here. So I'm glad to find out from the discussion board that a lot of you um, had your opinion about poetry changed. We're used to the poetry that we read in high school and junior high, maybe we like the Emily Dickinson, but a lot of it is long and boring, or might be okay with Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, things like that. But most of the stuff we'll read, we just don't get because it's old. It's old. It's 200 years old, something like that. And we don't read anything by a lot of modern or contemporary poets. And also, the subject matter matters a lot, as you can tell from the second poetry example they gave us by Rita Dove, um, Mickey and the Night Kitchen for the third time before bed. So that poetry is a little explicit, and can you imagine reading this in junior high or high school? A lot of moms would flip out. So, not that there's anything terribly wrong with the poem. It's a natural uh, scene, and it probably might have actually happened to Rita Dove, and something that you might not know, or maybe you do. But she's African American, and so for that expression of being pink, that um, well, obviously you can see how that changes your perception of yourself, and so it touches on a lot of different things. But kids are just naturally curious about the body. So anyway, so we're on to some other things. Um, Anybody can write poetry, and that's kind of what they're stressing in that first chapter. Is anyone can write. It's just a matter of having that right subject to move you. We often think that poetry has to be about these lofty topics, such as love and death, and I don't know what else is loftier than those two. But really, it can be about everyday things. I always think about poetry as making the ordinary extraordinary, or extraordinary is what we generally say, but there's extraordinary. And I think that's a good way to think about it. You take a moment and you condense it into some lines. And I'm sorry, I'm just doing this weird hand thing, but I know, I'll put it away. But we take something and we put it into something else. We transfer that experience. We attach emotion to it. We make it beautiful or something like that. Poetry is a challenging thing to start, but once you get going, you realize that yeah, I can do this, and that's what I really hope the first chapter is showing you. It seems like you learned a lot from these different chapters. I think we looked at, let's say, the first three. I'm sorry, it's a lot of reading, but I'm looking at my book right now. I'm sorry, I'll find it. All right, so writing and knowing, family, death and grief, and there's other things: writing the erotic, the shadow, witnessing, and poetry of place. So that's a lot of different topics, and some of you are drawn to others. I mean, you might not have the experience of death and grief, and that is perfectly fine. And I'm actually very happy for you that you don't have that. But is writing about your dead dog a worthy poetic topic? Sure, it is. Um, just don't make it too sappy unless that's what you're going for. But writing about your family, those things that your parents do that maybe annoy you, or that one thing that you saw, I don't know, something that you think about, um, an interaction between your mother and your father, that you catch off guard, like you notice them holding hands when no one's looking. Yeah. So what does that tell you? And you make something out of it. So poetry is an active creation. So I'm glad that you're seeing the power of poetry, and we all had some different poems that you liked, which is good. Lastly, I do want to address, um, well, not lastly, but before we go on, I want to talk about writing and knowing. Somebody said that the book discusses write what you know, and that is a very common adage or advice for writers. Oftentimes, we try to stretch it. We try to put ourselves in situations that we've never been in, and it doesn't ring really honest or true. So, yeah, write what you know. And if what you know is high school, that is fine. If what you know is small town Ohio, that is fine. There's plenty of great work out there that focus on just those two things. So the last thing is I asked you why you think I skipped the chapter on writing the erotic. And a lot of you talked about it, and I think you understand. But the main reason is because I have a mix of students in my class. Some are still in high school, and some who are adults. And I am not going to ask high school students to write about sexy stuff for adults to read, or vice versa, because I don't think that's just appropriate. So we're not really going to worry about that. You're welcome to read the chapter because, as you all point out, physical expression of love or even that feeling of lust is perfectly normal. It's human. It's how we interact. We connect emotions and all sorts of things to those sorts of things. And there are plenty of wonderful poems out there that are dirty, and it's all right. Um, that's something that we celebrate. We celebrate the body, we celebrate ourselves, we celebrate everything that we know. So for me, it's a little bit of sheltering you, and I'm sorry that I do that, but I don't want, and your parents, if you're a high school student, are checking on your homework and they're like, why is he asking you to do this? I don't want to come across as a dirty old man or a pervert or whatever. But I think it's important for you to know that this type of writing exists, but also that I am not going to ask you to share any of it with me. If you do choose to share it, that is yours, but I'm not going to, we're looking at this chapter and the writing exercises. I'm not going to ask you and make you do any of these things. Um, you get a poem with the phrase "I want" or "Tonight I want," right? Or write an homage to your body. Those are great things to do because they might reveal something about yourself and say something about society or life as you. But again, I am not going to ask you to do that and share it with me because I think that goes way too personal and beyond your comfort level. It would probably go beyond my comfort level too. So anyway, that is that. I hope you continue reading and enjoying and try some of these exercises out because I think they will be helpful. So take care.